Hey guys, so typically when I get a new piece of gear, whether it's camera, lens, I like to give it a little bit of time to see if I like it, see if it works well. And it usually takes me doing it in some sort of paid production, testing it out thoroughly to know if I really love it. And after about 2 productions, I know if something's going to be a keeper or not, or all the problems that may come along with it. Now, I've used the FX3 now for 2 years. It's a great camera, and it's actually surprised me over the years. One, with the firmware updates that they've made, ones that are coming together. But my expectation was never to think that this was going to be a cinema camera and it's going to take over any sort of large production work, even though people have used this. Now, there are limitations to any of these smaller cameras, and we know that, right? It's like the power, how you kind of gear it up. And, you know, keeping it small is what makes it really fun to work with. And that's why I truly bought this camera, having that autofocus ability when I needed it, if I just wanted to keep a light package. But for production work, if I want to put a cine lens on it, I can do that. If I want to use some sort of follow focus system, I can do that. It gives me the ability to build it up, which is really nice. And for the price, I think it's really worthwhile. So what did I learn over the last 2 years, and how did I get this particular FX3 to the place that I feel comfortable, that I feel good when I take it out on productions, and its limitations? So there's a few things I kind of put together in this package that I'll go over. So for the basics, really, a lot of the times when I'm using this camera, you know, I can use a Sony stock lens and I'm gonna have that autofocus. But for those moments where I'm not using autofocus, I wanna have more kind of manual control. I use a PL mount for my PL lenses, which I really enjoy using. And the PL mount that I chose to use was the DZO film mount, and it's basically an E to PL mount. And I use that with any one of my PL lenses. Now, this gives me the ability to control everything the way I want to. It's not ideal for every situation, but now that I've used this PD movie LiDAR follow focus system, it actually makes it a joy to work with PL lenses or cinema style lenses that don't have autofocus. I get to choose those lenses, pick specific lenses that I really love, and get the image that I really want. So typically any cage will do. I went with the Condor Blue. This has a handle with a trigger on it. And for a monitor, it depends on what I'm doing. If I'm just kind of run and gun and I don't need to, let's say, use a client monitor or anything like that, what I'll use is just any monitor will really work that you have or you may want to use. But when I have a production where the client really wants to see what's going on, obviously behind camera, or if I need someone to be a focus puller and use some sort of director monitor or some sort of small handheld monitor, I use the M1 system for Holy Land. This has been great. I've had it already for about, I don't know, 8 months or so. They did come out with a new version. I think it's the M1 Enhanced. And the differences between those are, you know, that it has some sort of locking power connection. Now, I haven't had any problems with the power kind of popping out. Sorry for the interruption. We really noticed that people aren't subscribing to the channel. Please hit that subscribe button. Help support the channel. We really appreciate it. All right, let's get back to the video. But I'll show you what that setup is when I actually build this out with the V-mount. But typically, it's just HDMI, and I can use SDI to connect to if I have an SDI camera, which I do. When I'm using the Ursa, that's what I use. I use the SDI. I got the one with 2 of these, and what's good about it is you can use it as a receiver and a transmitter, or vice versa. But I also have the transmitter, the actual receivers that I put together on different monitors, as you'll see. Monitoring for me is really important for 2 reasons. One, for the client or the agency, people really want to see what's going on. They want to see how the frames are set up. We have to get approvals on those frames. Now, I'm not going to walk up to them, have them come, you know, reach over a 5-inch monitor and be like, what do you think? So it needs to be kind of in a bigger way, and it's nice to have it mobile. So I'll show you how that's set up and how everything kind of works as is right now. Now, typically I can just use the battery. This is going to last me an hour and a half if I have it on, maybe the whole time. If I'm lucky, maybe 2 hours, but I'm still powering it this way through battery. Now, once I hook up the V-mount, I have all my connections. I can go right into V-mount and power up the camera, plus charge the battery. So I think that's a great solution for that. So let's power this up, and I'll show you how I use these external kind of monitors to view. So for starters, let's power this up. I'm gonna put in this PD Movie LiDAR. That's gonna kick on while everything is starting to set up. Let me power this on. This takes about, I don't know, 10 seconds to power on. And then what we're gonna do is we'll move the camera over just a sec here. And I'll show you what I'm using as a monitor. And this is basically an old Adamus Ninja Assassin monitor that I'm using. You can use any monitor you want. This cage is a Canva cage. It's pretty inexpensive and you can modify it. And it really is built for a 5-inch screen, but it does well with this 7-inch screen. So if it's something you're looking for, that might be ideal for you. You can mount it on any sort of a tripod situation here if need be. Now, as you can see here, not only do I have the monitor, but I also have a V-mount adapter which powers my receiver and the monitor itself. So I don't have 1,000 batteries hooked up to this. And again, I'll turn this on and I will turn the monitor on and let's see if we can get a nice signal here. Sometimes I have to pair it, but most of the time it does a good job on its own. So let's take a look at that. I have this coming from the monitor right now, right? And it's all pretty responsive, pretty nice. It's not too bad. Good enough, and maybe even better in certain situations. I've used this and gone up a floor, 2 floors even, as long as there's not like, I don't know, metal walls that are gonna prevent this from working. It does a really good job, I have to say, for the price. Now, going with something like a Teradek, if somebody needs a whole bunch of monitors, that's something that we'll end up renting if need be. But for most cases that we're doing, this does a great job. So this shows you what these 2 things are here with just this and this. So if I want to create a client monitor, which is much bigger, I have, set up something like this, and I'll show you what that looks like. So we should get now 3 different kind of outputs. So you've got one for camera operator. Obviously, you've got one that can be for a focus puller or, someone who you want kind of away from the camera, see what's going on. Again, we can always use the PD Move manual control here. And now we've got the client monitor. So you've got 3 monitors based off that. Again, this is a receiver. This is a receiver and a transmitter. You can get the double, which has 2 screens, receiver, transmitter, and you can kind of flip-flop depending where you need it. I wanted 2 because I wanted one on one camera, one on the other camera, and I can separate and have, 2 screens for one or one for the other. This gives me a lot of flexibility. Now, this monitor here was a real kind of piece of cake to deal with. If you've seen, laptops have extended monitors. So I wondered if I can power this thing on and get it working a certain way. And it worked great. We used it on one shoot, then a second shoot, then a third shoot, and it was great. And again, the price to get this monitor is a piece of cake. What we use to mount it is also really simple here. So we've got a clamp hooked up. We've got our V-mount solution here, which powers both the receiver and also the monitor itself. So this works really well. Kept it on for hours. It did a great job. It's not power hungry and it works well. So that's solved for a big situation for me when it came to client monitoring. So again, having a monitor back here, having one monitor for your client, one for someone who's pulling focus, and obviously having an onboard monitor, and then having a situation where I have this LiDAR system to help me through. This keeps it a really lightweight package, and they can see it from as far as it needs to be. And I'll step away for a second. I'll go 2 floors up, and we'll see how that works. Hopefully I sped that up so you can see what's going on there. But that'll give you an idea of how I'm dealing with the monitor solution. Now let's talk a little bit about power and how we're going to power this up. Obviously there's solutions that we can use at any time, but let's use something that's going to be used with a V-mount for this, and just if I'm really going on some sort of solid sticks and how I set that up. Okay, so typically you'll have your rails, riser, whichever way you want to mount your camera, and this could be any brand, it doesn't really matter. What I liked about this is I wanted this to be super flexible because I want to use a much larger base plate to kind of make sure that this kind of balances out properly. Now I went with this Neatsy power adapter for the V-mount, and it has a few connections on here. You've got 14.8 one here, you've got another 14.8 and a 14.8 kind of plug-in power on both sides, which makes it, you know, decent. And I don't know if it's the best thing ever, best solution, but it works pretty well. So I try to get it as flush as I can on the back. This then tightens up. Make sure that's all good on both sides. So once that's tightened up, now I have the ability to do all the connection and the wiring to get this thing all powering the camera and the monitor itself. And then I use this base plate to slide it in, something like this. I just move this over. Now I need to connect the monitor, and then I also need to power up the camera, obviously. So let's power up this monitor. So now there's no battery, makes it a little bit lighter, and we're getting power. Next is going to be getting power to the battery and having it charge the actual camera. So obviously we're going to use the USB-C adapter here. I don't really want to use a dummy battery. This kind of does the trick for me, and you can use USB-C to USB-C or that traditional USB-C hookup there. Before I do that though, I'm just going to have these wires kind of tucked in a little bit better, just so it doesn't pull. But basically it looks like this. So this is being powered right now into the V-mount. And again, if you look at the side here, we're powering the camera now. Let's kick this camera on. So now the camera's coming on, and looks like everything kind of works as it should. Let's make sure that's all connected, all good to go. Let's power up our monitor, which we have going on right now. And there you go. So now the monitor is powered also via the V-mount, and we're kind of set. So now I have this package that I can kind of run with and at least go in all day. Now you could put a much bigger battery on here. That's fine. And again, you don't need this plate, but when I'm shooting, either I'm shooting on some sort of like dolly system or I'm on a tripod, this kind of stays the way that it is all day. And that's really how I have it set up. And this is what's been comfortable for me. Really in the last year I've been using this, and it's been a good situation for me. So again, really simple hookup, easy to do, nothing too crazy. And I'm sure some of you already have some of these pieces that you can already build this out without a problem. But this made my life a lot easier. So again, if we talk about the parts here, I've got this PD movie, this LiDAR focus system, which will pop on. We've got this being powered from the V-mount. We've got the camera being charged from the V-mount with the battery still in there. I haven't had any issues with that. And that's pretty much it. So now, you know, if I'm kind of going forward with this, this is pretty much it. I make sure that I calibrate my lens. I'm good to go. And then what I can do is just leave that there. Let me just grab a quick battery here. So now I'm going to power the monitor, walk away from the unit, and I'm going to use manual control here for this. So as you can see, as I'm turning, it's working. And again, it's the LiDAR system, and I can use this as I walk away and have this all set up the way that I need. I think this is the most functional I've had one of these Sony cameras in a long time. So really happy about that. And I think it works really well. The one thing I wanted to mention about using a recorder monitor, it's really nice because you can go record, do a little bit of a playback, have proxies, or even just direct to client, right? You get those takes in, you're good to go, and you're pretty much set here. So I think this is the ideal setup for me anyhow, and what's been working for me with the FX3. So if you really want the FX3 to kind of work in your favor, especially in a longer day shoot or a bigger production, this has worked for me best so far. And again, really easy to use, easy to pack in and out, and it works so far flawlessly. So really like that it works the way that it does. Gives me that extra stability, control, and being able to kind of really, again, balance this camera, use it the way that I want to, especially when it's more in this type of setting. I think it does really, really well. So I hope that was helpful. I've been using this for about a year and it works really great. It's a great kind of system to kind of break down. So if I don't want to do this and I want to make this a lightweight package with this camera, I can just take this all apart and just go and shoot with the body itself and use, autofocus with native lenses. Thanks for watching, guys. I will see you on the next one. Thanks.